Okay, here I have a sine wave. It's 116 megahertz, and I have a 1 volt peak to peak. So I already have some of the measurements, but what you can do is you can click the measure button, okay, and you have the source of the measurement, so you can select between channel 2, 3, 4, and so forth. Another feature that I really love, that is incorporated, I believe, in all the Rigol scope, is they have actually a built-in frequency counter. So I love to turn this on and leave it on, and what it does, it displays the frequency, and it's very accurate. It's much more accurate than the frequency readout that you get from the actual waveform. Okay, you have a clear button, and actually what you can do is I believe if you can only display 5 measurements, 5 measurements, and you can, let's say if you're not interested in seeing measurement number 2, you can delete it, or like for example, see, recover. I recovered all of them. Well, let's see. Okay, see, there's some measurements here that I've taken, and I'm able to recall them. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and delete all of them. Okay, and go back. Oh, another feature is display all. So you press that and it gives you basically all the parameters of that waveform. You can also ask it to give you the parameters of all 4 channels. So I can see myself taking a picture, and then of the waveforms themselves, and then taking another picture of all the parameters. Okay. Let's see. Turn it off. Say display off. And then the other one, let me go, before I can show the statistics off, make a measurement. The measurements are done here. Okay, let's plot the period, frequency. Let's see, and these are, when I first press the menu button, I get a horizontal menu, which are all time related. If you press it again, you get a vertical, which is voltage related. So in this case, let's say Vmax, Vmin, peak to peak. Okay, so it displays my period, my frequency, max, peak to peak, and min. So those are the 4 measurements that you can take. If you take another measurement, I believe, let me see if I can take it. I believe one of them will be replaced. Yes, it got, see, ramp. I think it did get replaced. Average, yeah, the last one I believe gets replaced. Let me go back. No, yeah. Okay, so let's say you have those measurements. Okay, and you want to know the statistics of it, and see, in other words, how is it changing? How are they changing? So it gives you the current value, the average value, which is great, and then you have your min and max. So it gives you these measurements, and that's the statistic. Now, if you want to get the extreme, I believe, or the difference is there. See, it's got the cursor average, and then it gives you the standard deviation and how many samples. It looks like it's counting how many samples is doing. So having the deviation is a real good thing to have, because it gives you a feel for how stable your measurement is, or your circuit that you're measuring. So basically, as far as let's see, you can reset the statistics. Yeah, you can reset the count, and there's a measurement setting. I'm not sure, I haven't explored this yet, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, well, you know what, I'll just read up on it a little bit more and find out, and I'll make an addendum to this one. And there's also a measurement history that I need to figure out how it works. Oh, there, it's working. It's some kind of a measurement. I guess it's like a data plugger, I guess, for lack of a better word. And I believe you can also do tables. So that's kind of neat to have, I guess. Let me see what happens if I lower the amplitude on the waveform. I have it at 1 volt, peak to peak, and I believe this one is the 1 volt peak to peak, and it's measuring 987 to 977. So see if it works. Oh, it does work. So I went to 500 millivolts, and it's displaying it. So that's pretty neat. Just found that out along with you guys. Okay, so you have that. I forgot to turn it off. Let me see. Turn it off. Go back there. Okay, great. Let me see. Measurements. Go back. Takes a little while to get used to this, but once you're done, you're done. Okay, so stick this off. Okay, so I have my measurements. Okay, so back to where we began. Okay, trigger menu. That's the trigger menu. It has the edge, pulse, slope, video, pattern, RS232, IC2, SPI, GAN, and flex ray. Not sure what those are. Let me see. Slope, you can trigger the positive or the negative going, or the either. Okay. Have the auto, normal, or single. So if you do a single, there, cut a single. I'll leave it in auto. Okay, run. So that's the vertical menu. Okay, it has a 50% trigger button where it brings the trigger level right to the midpoint, or you can do it yourself like that. Okay, next, let's see the cursor. How does it work? Press cursor. You have the option of going manual, manual, track, and auto. So in the manual, you get that. You get the output of your cursors on the left side, and if I'm not sure if you can see, but it has cursor A and B lit up. If that means that if they both lit up, they move sequentially. Well, they move together. Okay. If you want to move cursor A, Yes. You can move cursor A alone by itself. Press B, moves cursor B. But I found out that you don't have to have this enabled. You can have the cursor or the menu off, and what you can do is B is controlled. If you press the button, both will move. Press the button again, the left side moves. So for example, let's say if I want to measure the frequency, okay, let me expand it a little bit more. So I have cursor A, okay, press it again, I should have cursor B, and right there. So it gives you the delta. Okay, the delta is 6.26 nanoseconds, and 1 over delta is 159.7 megahertz. But I got the counter. The counter says that it's 160 megahertz, and I look at the function generator, it's 160.0 hertz. So the measurements are in pretty good agreement. Let's say if you had a question about if the time period, or let's say there was a symmetry and you wanted to measure, well, press it again. You can move this to the top, and basically, let me scroll this and move it again. Let's say if you want to see the time at the midpoint the same as the time, and in this case it should be, but let's say you had a waveform that you expect a certain kind of symmetry, you should be able to measure that as well. And that's a useful option or feature to have. Anyway, that's the measurement or the cursor. Let's try the track. Okay, so in the tracking, I believe you can do the same thing. You can but however, in this case it's tracking your waveform. So I press it again, and I should, okay, get a second cursor. Okay, and the cursor is right here. Let's say if I want to measure the peak to peak, so now it's tracking the waveform, and seems to, once you set it at the point that you want to measure, it tracks it. Thing that I noticed is the waveform seems to be pretty, or at least the cursors don't dance around as much as I'm used to seeing in some of the other instruments, or even in the smaller Rigol. And it gives you the position or the values of your cursors, A and B, and then the difference. So in this case, it'll give you the peak to peak value. Let me go back to the one volt. Okay, I'm back to the 1 volt, and here it says that it's 983 volts peak to peak. Excuse me. Which is close to what the actual measurement display says, 987, 982 millivolts, so they're pretty close. Okay, so you got the track, and then auto. Let me see what that does. Not sure. Cursor, auto. I guess, let me see, peak. Okay, there. So it does that. That's the auto range, and it highlights this volt peak to peak down here. Let's see what happens if I do V max. Okay, so I guess it puts a little cursor horizontal line I guess to let you know what they're reading. Okay, so that's enough of that. It's very straightforward. Let me see. Oh, I think let's go to the acquire button, and the acquire button, you can go to normal. Let's go to normal. And then you have averaging in case you have noise. And let me see. Oh, and then once you have it in normal, I'm sorry, average, you can average it between two waveforms or the 8192 waveforms. Okay, you also have peak detect, and you have a function called high resolution. Okay, and this doesn't really display anything, at least I don't think it does. Okay, it's the sampling in real time. So in this case, I believe that on some of the other scopes they have real-time sampling, and then they have like a pseudo sampling or equivalent sampling. Let me see if I can show it here on this other one. Acquire, they call it real-time and equivalent time. So the equivalent time is a different type of sampling, and I believe it's a little gimmick to kind of inflate their sampling capability. But in this case, Rigol has made a decision of not to include that because their sampling rate is pretty high, 4 gigahertz per second, so I don't think there's a need for that. And it shows it right here. It's displays what the sampling rate is, and I would assume that if I go lower, it looks like okay, now I'm lowering the time base. I'm down to 2 milliseconds time division. And let me see if I can get a waveform down in that area. Okay, so kind of makes sense that if you're going to be sampling such a low frequency, that you don't need as many samples. So even so, it gives you the sampling rate right there, and also the how many points it's fulfilled. Like for example, since I have it at 2 milliseconds, it's still sampling at 4 giga samples per second, which is outstanding. And this is for a 294 hertz. Yeah, 294 hertz. Okay, so it's not until you go to 5 milliseconds then it starts sampling down to 2 gigahertz. And if you notice, this is 140 megabytes memory, so it's using the entire memory. Okay, now let's explore that a little bit. On the next one, it says memory depth. It has the auto. Okay, so it decides what's appropriate, but you can overwrite that. So I'm gonna set it to 14K points. Okay, so now if you look up here, it says 14K points. Okay, and you can go to 140, 1.4 meg, 14 meg and 140 meg, which is phenomenal. Okay. And then you have a anti-aliasing. I like to have it on because I notice that when I turn it off, the actual display is brighter. Not sure why, but to me, I like it for it to be bright. I don't see if it shows up in this on the video, but see, that's it off and that's on. And basically, it's a feature to try to avoid aliasing, which can be a problem sometimes. Okay, talking about the brightness. Here's the brightness. Okay, you can turn it down. Although it didn't seem to have much of an effect there. Okay. I guess the anti-aliasing turns it fully on, unless they didn't intend it to do. But let me turn